Alaska Airlines has teamed up with Hawaiian Airlines to create new nonstop international flights. Go to alaskaair.com or hawaiianairlines.com, and I'll tell you more details later in the show. I'm Rachel Bell, and this is Your Last Meal, the show where celebrities share stories about the foods they love most, and we dig into the history, culture, or science of those meals with experts from around the world. Today on the program, musician and actor Sharon Van Etten. Sharon is out on the road right now touring her 7th album, Sharon Van Etten and the Attachment Theory. But she almost had a career in wine, something she is still passionate about as a hobby. So I chat with the founders of Open That Bottle Night, a holiday every wine drinker needs to be aware of. And Sharon says if she cooks when she's in a bad mood, the food tastes awful. I chat with a cognitive neuroscientist to see if there is scientific data to back that up. All that coming up later in the show. But first, my conversation with Sharon Van Etten. You are very passionate about wine. I'm curious when that started for you.
When I was in high school, I was in AP Spanish. And when I got to that level, I had the opportunity to apply for an exchange program. And the family that I was able to stay with lived in Logroño, which is in La Rioja region in the north near San Sebastian. And I got to live with a family in their flat. And, we lived together, ate together. They took me tapas, bar hopping, and showed me just how every restaurant had a specialization. And then they took me to a restaurant and a winery and had me taste this bottle of wine from Rioja with a meal that we were having. And I had no idea about wine until then. All with the pairing of food and their family history and everything. It left a mark on me.
Yeah, and also that big difference of letting somebody who's younger drink wine, which is something that we don't tend to do in the U.S., but then we have a lot more problems, it seems like, with alcohol. Was that something did you tell your parents that you were drinking wine?
Well, the funny thing is, I brought a special bottle home that the family gave me from this winery, and I told them that this was the region that I stayed in, and it was like a family member's winery, and that I wanted to drink it with them when I graduated high school. And, so I bestowed it to my parents upon my arrival with also some chorizo, which was my new favorite food that I brought back. And I remember thinking it was a very big deal. And then one day I came home from school and I noticed that it was in the recycling area, and my dad had drank it without realizing which one it was, because he was never so discerning, but I thought maybe they would set it aside, and I never even got to try this bottle.
Oh, no.
But, I was never a partier in high school. I waited till I left home to really partake in that way. So I never got to try that specific bottle, but we were going to.
Do you have any idea what the bottle was? Could you ever try to even recreate it?
If I ever got in touch with my exchange student that I had, this woman, Elisa, if she's out there in Rioja, I'd be very curious if she knew where it was from.
So this continued through your life, and you were studying to be a sommelier?
So my first job when I moved back home in my early 20s, and it was when I was getting back on my feet after living away from home, I'm doing the Cliff's Notes version, but my heart was broken and I was kind of a mess. And I moved back home with my parents to reconnect with them and get back on my feet. And I got a job at this local wine shop. And the owners there kind of took me under their wing. And when they heard that I liked Rioja wines, they put me in charge of the wine section. And from there, I started doing tastings at the shop, and I started getting to be able to try all the new wines that we got in. And I would go to tastings in New York City and all around New Jersey. At the same time, I was going back and forth to New York playing shows. And so it started building up in my music world. And I knew I was going to New York. So I asked my boss if he would give me a recommendation recommendation to work at Astor Wine. He was so sweet. He wrote me a recommendation letter, and I got the job at Astor Wine. And so that was my first job when I moved to New York. They love to educate their employees. So you get to learn a different region every week. And at the end of every week, you get to stand with the staff and they give you a tasting and explain to you what all these wines are. So I was at this crossroads where, music was coming up and wine was coming up. I thought of pursuing more of a study in wine, but
I think I got sliding doors moment.
Totally. And I still enjoy wine. I like to go to tastings when I can and try grapes that I've never had and like blends that I think sound interesting in regions that I'm not familiar with. And so it's more of a hobby now, but I never went down that path, but I thought about it for a millisecond.
You were saying that you became more of a wine snob than a wine drinker.
Well, I started feeling like I would go to people's houses and I would look at what the labels were, and if it was like, a kangaroo bottle or had a, bare feet on the label or whatever. And I just think there's a time and place for different kinds of drinking. And I didn't like judging people for what they wanted to drink. And I feel like along the way, I realized that I wanted it to be more of a hobby and like a personal pursuit than it turning into my career. It also felt like a dangerous career to pursue when I already enjoy wine. So...
Sharon's dad randomly opened and drank a sentimental bottle of wine that she was hoping to save for a special occasion. But some people never open the bottle at all. So many bottles of wine spend years and years languishing and getting dusty on the wine rack because no occasion seems important enough to open it. I did this once with a fancy bottle of olive oil that a friend gifted me. I stingily and sparingly dripped out a few drops here and there. I was trying to make it last and I hardly used any of it. And it eventually went bad. And I had to throw the entire bottle away when I could have been enjoying it the whole time.
I'm Dorothy Gator. A lot of people call me Dottie, and I write about wine.
And I'm John Brexher. People call me John. And we are the senior editors of Grape Collective, but we're best known as the creators and writers of the Wall Street Journal's wine column from 1998 to 2010.
Dottie and John created Open That Bottle Night 25 years ago, giving you an excuse to finally open your special bottles.
When we became the Wall Street Journal's wine columnists, we took a lot of questions from readers. It's back in the days when people sent letters in with stamps. And the question that we got over and over and over again was, I have this one bottle of wine that I got from my grandfather, or I won at an auction, or we got while we were on vacation. It's this one bottle and it's so special. What's the perfect time to open it? And by the way, how much is it worth? And always responded exactly the same way, which was, it's priceless. And you should open it this weekend and celebrate the memories. But we realized it wasn't that easy. So we decided, okay, fine. We'll just get everybody together on the same night and we'll all open that bottle. And that's how Open That Bottle Night was invented.
It's global. People celebrate it all over the world.
What is the date and why did you choose that date?
It's the last Saturday in February. And we figured that with major holidays in the past, this is just a good time that we need to look forward to something happy and celebratory. We figured February was a good time.
Also, it's just so dark and you're getting to the end of winter and you're just like, ugh, you're stuck in the house.
Yeah.
Exactly. Open That Bottle Night is a great excuse for great memories and festivity. And who doesn't need that at the end of February?
I don't know a lot about wine. There's always the idea of like, oh, it's better when it's aged. Oh, I have this really old bottle. It's better with every year. Is that true with all wine, or does some wine need to be drank early?
Most wines, 95% of wines in the world, are meant to open and enjoy right now.
Dottie and John say they rarely hear from people who open a bottle of wine they've been saving for a long time and it's no longer good.
If the wine isn't immediately delicious, give it some time. Wine is incredibly resilient. Don't rush to the sink and pour it out. Well, a lot of people do that. They'll take one sip and bleh. I like to give wines a lot of time. You should always have a backup bottle. Always, always. I was a Girl Scout. Be prepared.
Did you get the wine badge? What is the best way to store your wine so that it lasts the longest?
It's really important that it be in a dark area with a pretty constant temperature. Ideally, you'd keep it at maybe 60 degrees, like in a little wine cooler. There are very inexpensive small wine coolers available these days.
And the bottle needs to be reclining so that the wine is in contact with the cork.
Oh.
We sometimes see going to wine stores and wines are sitting up and it's hot and we can just hear the wine screaming, help me, help me. And, you want to leave those stores. You don't want to stay there.
I didn't know that. What does the contact with the cork do?
It keeps the cork moist. It keeps the cork bigger, which means air can't get in. Air kills wine.
Yeah. So if it's sitting up like this, it's not in contact with the cork. And so it'll dry out and that'll allow air to come in.
It seems surprising that a wine shop would do that. It seems like they would know better.
Oh, in restaurants too. Because it's decorative. They have it on the wall, and it looks cool, but yeah. Help me, help me.
Oh, by the way, John and Dottie are a married couple. How long have you been married?
Depends on how you count. Dottie says 46 years. I say 52. I consider us married the moment we met.
Oh, okay. That's sweet.
We do celebrate that day, but we actually became official in my mother's backyard, my parents' backyard, 46 years ago.
Bug me. So
put a ring on it.
Yeah. We remember the first wine we ever shared was Andre Cold Duck.
A classic.
Andre Cold Duck?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah. Sweet, red, sparkling wine. It was absolutely dreadful wine, except under the circumstances.
And it was a housewarming present from John's parents when he got his first apartment.
$7.99 right now. I could go to the grocery store and get it.
There you have it.
It sounds like it's the Manischewitz of sparkling wine.
Yes.
That's funny. So that bottle actually did spark a love of wine, though, for you two?
Well, it sparked us. We had it on our first real date. It was perfect. We picked vegetables earlier that day and we took them to John's apartment and cooked. And that's what he had. He had a bottle of Andre Cold Duck. So we had it and sort of cemented us as a couple.
That's a very wholesome first date. I love that. Do you remember what you cooked?
I do. We picked lima beans, squash, and I think John had rice. And that was basically it. We sauteed the vegetables in butter. That was a meal.
I asked Dottie if she'd be interested in going to a U-Pick field with me. And little did I know at the time, I didn't even know this, that fruits and vegetables are her love language.
Yes.
Mark your calendar for the last weekend of February. Decide which bottle you want to open and celebrate the story that you associate with it.
And no one is promised tomorrow. Maybe don't wait for open that bottle night.
Yeah, you started this before YOLO became an acronym, This is right. This is the YOLO of wine.
A lot of special bottles were open during COVID, during lockdown. But open that bottle night. It's a date where we can all do this together. And so that makes it special. But drink those special bottles.
Does food taste different when you're depressed? What about if you're really, really happy? After the break, I chat with a cognitive neuroscientist who studies smell and taste. It feels like everyone I know is traveling to Japan this spring. And starting May 12th, Alaska Airlines and their new partner, Hawaiian Airlines, are offering nonstop daily flights between Seattle and Tokyo. You can enjoy Pacific Northwest treats on the way over, like Beecher's cheese and Seattle chocolate truffles. And then just before you land, have a Stumptown coffee so you're energized for a Tokyo eating marathon. Book your dream trip today at alaskaair.com or hawaiianairlines.com. Several years ago, you started going to school to become a therapist. Is that something that you're still pursuing?
It's something I'm still pursuing. I take a class here or there. I haven't taken one in a couple of years just because of the touring. It's been a lot to balance between having a family and making a record and being on the road a lot because I never finished my undergrad. So that's still where I am. I'm not going to be home for 6 months at a time at the moment. Yeah. I didn't realize that my science classes from 99 and 2000 something, I'd have to retake all over again. So I'm back to I'm in my 40s taking general studies classes, but I'm still inching my way.
Do you actually want to be a therapist or do you just like to learn?
I want to become a therapist, a counselor. I thought about maybe it being through a university to reach the ages where kids first leave home and then they go to school and they have nobody.
It's nice to have options because our society's kind of built in this way that you do the same thing for your whole life. And especially I think in your case, being in music and entertainment, people just think like, well, why would you ever want to do anything else except for that? Like, that's the big dream. But, you know, you're multifaceted.
Between having a partner and a kid and wanting to settle down and, you know, my son just turned 8 and I feel like I'll want to have a job where I can clock in and clock out easier. He's very supportive. He likes what I do. He's, you know, not in like a starry-eyed way, but more just he sees how much it means to me and other people. At this point, he's been on the road with me a bit and he's met my band. They're like aunties and uncles to him. And he knows that I miss him when I'm gone and he comes out when he can. But now that he's in real school and I feel like I'm just missing out on big stuff, I'm asking myself questions of what's next for me. Music will always be a part of my life. I think it's always been therapeutic to me as a person, like whether or not I share my songs with other people. I write them when I'm going through something, and then I share them when I know that other people could relate to it. Otherwise, I don't share them with people. But I do find it very cathartic for me. And if I didn't have that, I don't know where I'd be today. So it'll always be there on some level.
That leads into my next question, which is, you've said that your lyrics and music, when they're darker, you're trying to work something out, which is exactly kind of what you were just saying. Does that affect how you cook at all or how you eat? Does your mood affect your cooking and eating?
Well, it's funny you say that. I was just having a conversation with someone the other day where I'm like, if I'm in a bad mood, I don't want to cook because I feel like you put that energy into the food and it doesn't usually taste good. If I'm in a bad mood cooking, like I usually have to throw it away. Like, really? I'll notice that because my heart isn't in it. And cooking is therapeutic for me as well. I do love it, you know, I have the New York Times cooking section and I have cookbooks and I also love Googling. I love meal planning. I try to be inventive for the family, just, you know, to not keep it to, you know, mac and cheese and pizza and chicken nuggets every day. But it's definitely something that I have to have the time for and I can give the energy to because I think your mood does affect your cooking.
There was a whole movie about that. Well, there was 2. I feel like Chocolat was a little bit like that. Mm-hmm. And then what was the other one? What? Do you know what I'm talking about? I can't remember. It was from the 80s or the 90s, like Water for Chocolate.
Oh, okay. Well, Diane Cluck had a song about that where she talks about being in a bad mood and cooking and it tasting bad.
You've actually like thrown food away when that's happened? Like you've tasted it and been like, ugh, bad.
Yeah, I don't want to serve this to anybody. Let's go out tonight.
What do you eat when you're happy? Do you have certain foods or is it mostly just like if you're in a bad mood that affects your eating and cooking?
Dark chocolate is always one that I keep on hand, like a salted dark chocolate bar. I like tortilla chips and salsa. There's something about the crunch and the salsa that are very satisfying.
In movies like Chocolat and Like Water for Chocolate, the mood of the cook seeps into the food and transfers into the people eating it. That is magical realism. But there is actual science that says food can taste better or worse depending on your mood. Hi, Rachel.
Hi, Rachel.
Don't you just love other Rachels?
I was going to say, I love saying that.
Me too. That's Dr. Rachel Herz, cognitive neuroscientist and author of Why You Eat What You Eat, the science behind our relationship with food. A very fascinating book.
The sort of 2 major states that it's been shown to have an impact are joy, happiness, and sadness, depression, being angry, and so on. When we're really happy, we have an increase in the neurotransmitter serotonin. That's the neurotransmitter that's involved in, pharmaceutical versions of getting yourself to be happier as well. And that actually boosts our perception of sweet taste. So eating chocolate when you're happy tastes especially good. Now, when we're in a really bad mood, depressed mood, angry mood, and so on, the neurotransmitter that is increased in this case is noradrenaline, and it actually accentuates the taste perception of sour. So anything that has sour in it is going to be magnified, and you may even start to taste sour where other times you actually wouldn't even detect it. But there's also a sort of a psychological level, which is not trivial. And that has to do with just the general feelings that we have about ourselves. So like, for instance, when we're upset and feeling depressed, we don't feel very good about ourselves, period. And so anything we do, whether it's making a meal, writing something, or whatever it is, we'll be much more critical, see all the flaws in it, and just have a kind of a general negative attitude towards whatever that is. And so there might have been a tiny thing that wasn't perfect before. If you were in a really good mood, you wouldn't notice it. In a bad mood, it's central line.
Rachel shares an example of the sweet and sour science.
Yeah, so this is a study that I love that was done by Robin Dando at Cornell University. Rather than doing it in a lab, they actually capitalized on a naturalistic scenario of real people experiencing real emotions in real life. And this was capitalizing on the Cornell hockey team's wins and losses throughout a particular hockey season. And in this particular season, Cornell won 4, lost 3, and tied 1. Fans of the Cornell team were approached after a game, either a win or a loss, and offered to sample 2 flavors of ice cream. One was a salted caramel pretzel ice cream, and the other was a lemon lime sorbet. Each of them got both. Now, as you might imagine, generally speaking, the salted caramel pretzel ice cream was liked better than the lemon lime sorbet, but there was a really interesting effect observed as a function of the game outcome. For the salted caramel pretzel ice cream, it actually didn't matter whether they won, lost, or tied. People liked it pretty much the same degree regardless. However, for the lemon lime sorbet, and note there that the sour would be increased if they lost and were sad, and the sweetness would be enhanced if they won and were happy, you see a very clear effect of wins versus losses, where the lemon lime sorbet was actually liked a lot more after a win than after a loss, and nearly approached, in the win case, the salted caramel pretzel ice cream liking.
So maybe fewer lemons and pickles if you're depressed.
Definitely fewer lemons and pickles. And the other thing is that, interestingly, what I just said to you about neurotransmitters and mood state is that often people will go to comfort food when they're in a depressed state. So, the cookies and other sorts of things. The sort of double negative about that is that the cookies don't taste as sweet. And so we are not getting the sort of hit that we want to from them, that we're hoping we'll get from them. And the same thing goes for high fat foods. The fattiness actually is also decreased in our perception. So often we end up eating more of those foods to kind of get the dose that we kind of want to experience. And then, depending on who you are or what you're like, you might feel extra bad because I ate a whole bag of cookies. I only wanted to eat 2 or 3, and now I'm even more upset with myself.
I want to share one more interesting study with you from Dr. Hertz's book that isn't about happiness or sadness, but another way that our brain subconsciously affects our eating habits. If you bring a reusable bag to the store, you're going to buy more chips and cookies?
I don't think this effect actually works so much anymore because we all have to bring pretty much everywhere you are reusable bags, or you're charged for the bag from the stores. But back in the day when it was just beginning to be also virtuous to bring your own bag because you're being conscientious about the environment, but no one's forcing you to do it. They started collecting the data around 2005, I believe. This is when you see basically a self-virtue reward congratulatory behavior from people. So people who brought their own bag to the grocery store, first of all, unsurprisingly, they actually bought more produce, generally speaking, than individuals who did not. But they also bought more treats, more ice cream, and more potato chips. How people kind of congratulate themselves for being good. I've done a good deed, and now I get something for being a good person.
We're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, Sharon shares her last meal. Hi, food lovers. Season 2 of my TV show, The Nosh, is out now. And I know I'm biased because I co-produced it, I hosted it, I wrote it, but it is a really fun season. We get into everything from an Ethiopian coffee ceremony in Seattle's Pike Place Market. I get to do some fancy wilderness cooking with a TikTok influencer. Don't watch the pizza episode unless you have pizza in front of your face. You will regret it. And this is PBS, so it is shot beautifully. They're just these tasty little 8.5-minute bites, so I think everybody has time to watch. You can watch The Nosh anytime at CascadePBS.org, on the Cascade PBS app, or if you're in Washington or Canada, it's on Cascade PBS Channel 9, Thursday nights at 8:50 p.m. Pacific. Okay, let's get into the big question of the show. What would your last meal be?
Well, my favorite thing ever is mashed potatoes. And if I'm feeling saucy, mashed potatoes toast with white gravy. It's just
so the mashed potatoes on the toast?
Mashed potatoes on the toast. You can either put gravy on it or dip it. But it's one of those comfort foods that I've had since childhood and into my adulthood that is just, there's something about potatoes that I love.
So give me the specifics. Like, what kind of toast? Is this something you always make at home, or is this something you do at a diner?
As an adult, I'll get it at a diner in a pinch. And I used to work at an IHOP, and I would have like the bottomless coffee with the mashed potatoes and the gravy and just whatever white bread, like the crappiest white bread. And mashed potatoes, I need a real potato, boiled, butter, then add milk sparingly. I don't mind some lumps in it, but whipped is fine too, as long as they're real. The white gravy is just, I didn't know about white gravy until I lived in the South, but they had it at the IHOP that I worked at. That was a development for me in my late teens, early 20s.
So is that where you found this meal, was at the IHOP?
It developed over time. So as a kid, it was just mashed potatoes. Every year, my mom would ask me what I wanted for my birthday, and I'd just say mashed potatoes. So when I moved to Tennessee for college and I worked at the IHOP, I created this whole meal based off of it.
And you had said that your mom felt guilty about making this for your birthday?
My favorite thing I always wanted was a side. And she just felt like, I'll make you a meal. Like, what do you want for your birthday? And I would just say mashed potatoes, and just the simplest thing made me so happy.
Your whole family would just eat a big bucket of mashed potatoes?
I think she created other sides around it for the family. And then I would always ask for like the strawberry shortcake for my cake. That was my birthday cake. But just the simple things, you know?
Everybody knows that sides are the best. I mean, that's what people like on Thanksgiving. When you come back to Seattle, if you ever have time when you're touring, we have an amazing, it's like a bar/diner. It's over 100 years old, called Hattie's Hat in the Ballard neighborhood.
Oh, I haven't been.
And you can order, they have it on the menu that you can order sides only. And their sides are so good. I think you can pick 3 or 4, and they have really good mashed potatoes, and they have this really good kind of take on creamed spinach. But I think there's like kale and chard in there too, because it's Seattle. But yeah, all sides. So good.
That sounds great. I'll be out there. I have two nights in a row there. So hopefully that means I can get a breakfast there one morning.
Yeah, you'd love it. It's so cool. Your mashed potatoes reminds me of when I was 6. Yeah, I must have been 16 when my best friend and I first started sneaking out of the house before we started being like bad kids. This was like innocent sneaking out. We would put the car in neutral and push it to the end of the street and then turn the engine on. And we would go to like a 24-hour diner, but like one of those chains. I don't know. You live in California. I wonder if they still have them. It was like Lions or old grandpa restaurants. And we would always get mashed potatoes and a chocolate milkshake. And I always think of that with mashed potatoes, just being in there in the middle of the night with those like classic diner mugs and like the heavy diner plates. It was a really weirdly good combination.
Aw, there is this old truck stop where my parents used to live, and it was called Louise's. And we'd always get busted because we would sneak cigarettes, but in there, everyone was chain smoking inside. That was, in the 90s, it was like everyone's always smoking inside. The coffee was never good, so you'd have to put milk and sugar in it just to be able to drink it. I would still order mashed potatoes in a smoky room with like a milky coffee and crappy mashed potatoes. It still was a little slice of heaven for me as a teenager.
For her last meal, Sharon Van Etten wants mashed potatoes with white gravy on toast. Let's see what John and Dottie have to say about that. What wine would you pair with mashed potatoes?
I would say a pretty delicious Chardonnay.
That's interesting. I had a feeling we were going to disagree on this. I would say a red, but like a Syrah. I would go kind of the opposite of the potato, but I knew we were going to disagree about that.
Yeah, even a buttery Chardonnay.
That's what I was thinking, the buttery mashed potatoes and then the buttery Chardonnay. But then
I'd like a bigger, more acidic red, I think, to cut through that. So
We'll have to try that.
yeah.
Thank you for that idea.
it's your next column, mashed potatoes.
Thank you. There's our idea.
Yeah. And that was Sharon Van Etten's last meal. Thank you so much for your time. It was really nice meeting you.
Oh, well, really nice meeting you too. Thank you. I feel like a little out of touch with the wine world these days, but it's making me want to get back into it.
Pick up Sharon's new album. It's called Sharon Van Etten and the Attachment Theory. She is on tour right now. Go to SharonVanEtten.com to get tickets, or you can find a link in the show notes. Her Pacific Northwest shows are already completely sold out, so if you're in another part of the country, hurry up and get a ticket right now. Thanks to Dottie Gator and John Breckscher, senior editors at grapecollective.com, and Dr. Rachel Hers. She has written several books. Her latest is Why You Eat What You Eat. Your Last Meal is a product of Seattle's Cascade PBS. Go to cascadepbs.org to become a member and get on-demand access to all PBS programming, including lots and lots of food shows. President Trump recently signed an order to defund NPR and PBS, so we can use your support right now more than ever. Season 2 of my TV show, The Nosh, is out now. New episodes drop every Thursday at cascadepbs.org. And on today's episode, I get to bake with the creators of the country's first Little Free bakeries. On May 31st, I'm taping a live Your Last Meal at the Cascade PBS Ideas Festival. Saturday, May 31st, downtown Seattle, I am kicking off the festival, and my special guest is Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal. You can find tickets in the show notes. This episode was produced and edited with Maliha Syed and Sarah Bernard. Sarah also mixed and mastered the episode. Original theme music by Prom Queen. I created, host, and co-produced the podcast. Oh, and make sure and come back next Thursday to hear The Leftovers with Sharon Van Etten. I'm Rachel Bell, and this is Your Last Meal. Give me 1 second. I'm going to grab my cat out of this tree, which feels like a very weird cliche thing. 1 second. Sorry. Can you give me 1 second? My cat is outside and it just started raining and she's screaming at the door. I'll just be back in 2 seconds.
Go get her.
She's so mad.
Oh, no.
She's so wet.